Last week, David Carter was arrested in Dubai for financial fraud against his own in-laws. The man who once tore up my scholarship now sleeps in a foreign jail cell. His charm finally powerless, I stood in my apartment, holding the restraining order my parents signed. Their names bold above his. It was surreal. They once disowned me for exposing him. Now, they thank me for saving them. When I was 10, David made me take the blame for smashing Grandma's antique mirror. He stared straight at me as Dad raised his voice, then winked when they turned away. I scrubbed the floor crying while he played outside. That day, I learned silence earned love. Kesha noticed the bruise on my arm later, but I shrugged it off. It's nothing, I whispered. That lie became my favorite survival trick. At 15, I caught David printing fake report cards in the garage. He grinned, handed me one, and said, "You'll need this when real life disappoints you." I didn't laugh. Mom called him a genius when he brought home straight A's. She called me ungrateful for questioning him. That night, I tore my own test paper in half. No one noticed. It was easier to cheer for him than admit he was cheating us all. I mailed our parents screenshots of David's fake Alex filings. A week later, they responded with a Bible verse about forgiveness. I forwarded it to Kesha, who replied, "You're not crazy, they're complicit." That night, I met Miguel by the building's dumpster. He handed me a USP from the security logs David had broken into my mailbox. I froze. If they didn't believe proof, would they ever believe me? What else would it take to wake them? I mailed myself a decoy credit card, tracking David's access. 2 days later, the envelope was torn, contents gone. I reported it to the Hoadian Brooks, the bookkeeper, hinted David owed back dues under a different name. She promised to dig at dinner. Dad praised David's new real estate venture. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled and cleared the plates. Was I the only one refusing to pretend anymore? Or just the loudest? Diane called me at 2 a.m. David had forged signatures on condo reserve withdrawals. I stared at the spreadsheet, each false entry burning my chest. Miguel warned me he's watching you now. I changed all my passwords, even moved apartments. Rico told me David once paid someone to handle snitches. I wondered if my parents would cry harder if I disappeared, or if they'd just blame me for ruining another family gathering. Was I next? Kesha tracked a burner account funneling cash to a Dubai address. It linked to David. I confronted Mom, but she whispered, "He's trying so hard." I slammed her kitchen drawer shut. "A what theft?" she cried. Called me cruel. I stormed out, phone buzzing with new transfers. David was laundering through retirement funds. Diane confirmed it, voice shaking. Yet my parents invited him to Sunday lunch. I wondered, how long does denial need before it eats you alive? I invited everyone to a financial wellness brunch. The room was tense. David smug in his seat. I handed out folders. Inside Diane's records, Miguel's footage, Rico's contacts. My father scanned a bank statement. "This can't be true," David laughed. "Photoshop," he mocked. But then Kesha played the audio David boasting about Dubai. Silence swallowed the room. My parents stared, speechless. Truth had finally pierced the golden mask. David stormed out, slamming the door so hard the mirror shattered. My mother knelt by the shards, whispering, "We failed." I didn't console her. Instead, I called Diane to begin the fraud report. Kesha hugged me tight. My hands shook, but my voice didn't. "We're not hiding anymore." Dad nodded slowly, folding the statement in half. The family house of cards had collapsed, and I wasn't under it this time. I filed the police report the next day. The officer barely blinked when I named David. "You're the third sibling this week," he muttered. At home, Mom avoided my gaze. Dad packed a box with old birthday cards, gifts David never paid for. I drove them to a motel. "It's temporary," I said. The motel key felt heavier than expected. I was their shelter now. Maybe I always had been. That weekend, Miguel called David had shown up at my old apartment. He paced outside, screaming, "I know what you did." I watched the footage, heart thudding. He knew I had proof, and he was unraveling. Rico suggested laying low. I stayed with Kesha, clutching my laptop like armor. My parents filed the restraining order. It was the first time they chose fear of him over faith in him. David sent a cease and desist through a shady lawyer. The letter accused me of harassment. I scanned the envelope, forwarded it to Kesha, then chuckled. "He's scared." Miguel warned he might escalate. I installed cameras, backed up evidence thrice. Rico found out David was trying to flee the country. "You've got maybe 2 weeks," he said. I didn't panic. I just called Diane. "Let's finish this," I told her. 2 days later, an arrest warrant hit the database. I was grocery shopping when Diane called, voice trembling. "They got him." I left my cart in the aisle and ran home. My parents sat quietly as I read the charges. Mom cried softly. Dad clutched a framed photo of all of us. David's smile now chilling. "He fooled us all," he whispered. I nodded, but not forever, not me. Carla, David's ex-fiancée, reached out after his arrest. She'd fled Dubai months earlier, claiming he'd stolen over $70,000 from her family. She sent me photos, fake invoices, altered passports, even audio of him mocking my parents. "He's done this before," she said. I felt sick. It wasn't just our family. He'd built a career on conning those who trusted him. We weren't his first victims, but I swore we'd be his last. Rico revealed David had a second passport, Venezuelan, and a plane ticket booked under an alias. The escape was real. I rushed to the DA's office with Carla's files. The clerk raised an eyebrow. "You built this alone?" I nodded. She whispered, "We'll make sure he doesn't leave." That night, I watched news footage of his arrest at the airport. No more masks. No more aliases, just a man, cornered by every lie he thought untouchable. In court, David claimed mental illness and manipulation by hostile siblings. His lawyer waved at me dramatically. I kept my gaze steady. Then the judge read from David's old emails mocking us. Plotting, one line stood out: "Sophia's too soft, she'll cave." The courtroom fell silent. I stood and said, "Not this time." The smirk vanished. My voice had once been buried under his lies. Today, it rang louder than his excuses. Kesha discovered David had been accessing my encrypted backups, therapy logs, family videos, personal journals. He'd used them to mimic my speech and messages to our parents. I broke down when I saw one, an apology I never wrote. He hadn't just stolen money, he'd stolen my identity. I confronted my parents again, showed them everything. This time Mom clutched my hand. I'm sorry, she whispered. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Miguel found a box near the building dumpster. David's shredded documents. Among the scraps, a contract retirement funds funneled into a crypto scam. I spent hours piecing it back together. Kesha confirmed the wallet address matched David's. The last piece, a signed confession to a silent investor. Diane recognized the name, her late husband. He'd died thinking he lost their savings. My stomach turned. David didn't just scam strangers, he exploited grief. That made me furious. Diane filed a wrongful death suit, citing David's scam as a direct stressor in her husband's decline. Suddenly, media outlets called me nonstop. I didn't want fame, I wanted peace. But when I saw the headlines Golden Child, Criminal Mind, I felt seen. David's pedestal had crumbled. Rico texted, "You started a reckoning." I smiled. Exhausted but proud, my story had become a matchstick, igniting every dark corner he once controlled. Carla shared a letter David wrote from jail, rambling, self-pitying yet unsigned. "You ruined me," he scrawled. "They loved me before you." I burned it. That wasn't closure, that was bait. Kesha hugged me, said, "He can't reach you now." Still, I changed my number. Deleted old voicemails. Healing wasn't loud, it was quiet, steady, a locked door. A silenced ringtone and a name I no longer flinched at hearing. One afternoon I received a package, my childhood journal. Missing for years, no note, just the cover scorched, pages smeared with oil. David had it, proof he'd read, mocked, maybe copied it. I stared at my old handwriting, shaky dreams inked before I knew betrayal. Kesha took it from my hands, said, "We'll digitize it, make it untouchable." That night, I archived every page. My past deserved protection, not pity. Rico uncovered voice memos, David threatening a silent partner. One recording had him saying, "Sophia's the only one who could ruin this." That sentence looped in my head. I wasn't just a sibling to him, I was his greatest risk. And yet, I'd survived. I shared the files with Diane, who passed them to prosecutors. It wasn't just about fraud anymore. It was about intent, and David had documented every step of his downfall himself. The prosecutor offered me a chance to testify. I hesitated, speaking meant reliving it, but silence was how David thrived. At court, I wore Blue Mom's favorite. My voice trembled at first, then steadied. "He weaponized love," I said, eyes on the jury and guilt. David wouldn't look at me. When I stepped down, Mom squeezed my hand. "You were always the brave one," she whispered. For the first time, I believed her. David's sentencing drew a crowd, victims, reporters, curious neighbors. The judge listed the charges, then paused. "Your crimes relied on trust. You shattered it. 15 years, no parole." As they cuffed him, David looked around for sympathy. None came. Carlette, seated behind me, exhaled sharply. "It's over," she whispered, but I knew it wasn't just about courtrooms. Healing had no gavel, no bailiff. It happened in breaths, in mornings I didn't dread waking up anymore. After sentencing, anonymous messages flooded my inbox. Siblings, cousins, even co-workers of David's past victims. Each shared how he'd charmed, then conned them. A woman wrote, "You gave us courage." I cried reading them. My pain had echoed. Kesha suggested creating a support group. I agreed. We named it Golden Truth, a space for voices long silenced. Speaking up hadn't just freed me. It gave others permission to stop pretending they were fine too. At the first Golden Truth meeting, Diane spoke through tears. I thought my silence protected others. It didn't. Her words cracked the room open. One by one, stories spilled out of stolen inheritances, gaslit marriages, lost time. I didn't speak much, just listened, handed tissues. Healing didn't mean spotlight, it meant space. Carla hugged me after. This is justice too," she whispered. And in that moment, I finally felt the word fit. Months later, Mom enrolled in trauma counseling and Dad took a part-time tech job. They showed up to every Golden Truth meeting, sometimes just to refill coffee. Once, I caught them holding hands, something I hadn't seen since childhood. "You saved us," Dad said one night, not from David. From ourselves. I didn't reply. I just handed him an old photo, me in middle school. "Braces and all. Start by loving her," I said. "The rest follows." Rico invited me to speak at a financial literacy conference. "Real stories hit harder," he said. I hesitated, then agreed. On stage, I told the audience about trust, loss, survival. I ended with, "Don't confuse charm for character, and never apologize for asking questions." Applause rose after. A teenager approached me, eyes wide. "My brother is like that." I hugged her, not to fix it, just so she'd know she wasn't alone anymore. That mattered most. The last photo I kept of David was from my high school graduation, him smiling, arm over my shoulder. I finally deleted it. Not out of hate, but peace. That girl beside him no longer needed proof. She'd lived the truth. As I closed the album, Kesha texted, "Groups full tonight." I smiled. Golden Truth had outgrown my trauma. It belonged to all of us now. And that, more than justice, felt like freedom. I visited the beach alone. David once called it our family spot. I brought no memories, just a journal. Waves crashed as I wrote. I am not the wound. For years, I measured myself by what he stole. But now I counted what I built: community, courage, clarity. A seagull snatched my sandwich, and I laughed harder than I had in months. Healing wasn't poetic, it was loud, messy, honest. I didn't reclaim the past, I rewrote it. At a bookstore panel, someone asked, "What would you tell your younger self?" I paused, then said, "It wasn't your job to fix him." The audience hushed. "But it is your job to heal you." I saw heads nod, tears blinked back. That night, Mommy mailed me a poem she's written. Dad sent a picture of his new desk. These weren't apologies, they were efforts. An effort, I'd learned, was the only real form of love. David remained behind bars, appeals denied. The tabloids forgot him. But Golden Truth grew, chapters in 4 states. Carla ran New York. Diane hosted Arizona. I focused on Los Angeles, teaching workshops. One morning, Miguel dropped off flowers with a note, "Because your courage made this possible." I pinned it on my wall. His kindness wasn't flashy, it was steady, the kind I used to dream about. And now, I lived in its light every day. On the 3rd anniversary of David's arrest, we held a candlelight vigil, not for him, but for the parts of ourselves we buried to survive him. People shared names, stories, victories. I lit my candle last. "This is for every girl who was told she was too much, too loud, too suspicious," I said. "May she always be." The flame flickered, strong and soft, like us, burned but never broken. Together, we finally stood in the light.